bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man, it's Monday, April 23rd, 2018, 113 days into the new year, just 252 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Yeah, that's right. It's Monday. An amazing week we've got lined up here on Fade to Black, and tonight, very special guest, David Adair is here for the very first time. Don't ask me why it's taken so many years, but nonetheless, tonight, David Adair is here to discuss his new documentary, America's Fall from Space. That's right, and look, he's got one of the most amazing lives, and we will discuss all of that. I want to hear about Area 51 from David Adair, don't you? Tomorrow night, Corey Good and Gerald O'Donnell join us. We're going to talk about remote viewing. Now, Gerald, he used to work for one of the agencies. He was a remote viewer. Then figured out things about remote viewing and decided to share with the world. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. It's going to be an amazing show. I haven't had Corey on for a while, so there you go. We got to hang out with Gerald up at Eclipse of Disclosure up at Mount Shasta last year. Great guy, smart guy. And, you know, he's really nice and really cool. At first, he's intimidating because he's smart, right? And you get to know him. He's really, really cool. And so tonight or tomorrow night, hopefully we'll have that side of Gerald. Tomorrow he won't intimidate me too much. And that's tomorrow night. Wednesday night, it's Laura Eisenhower. Laura is back, and she will help us to take our power back. And that will be Wednesday night. Thursday is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live, followed by open lines all night long. The call-in numbers are 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, Facebook, YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black. It's simple. You can also email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, hashtag F2B on Twitter, by the way. That's the sandbox. This Wednesday, and I've been warming you up and letting you know, this Wednesday is the OnStellar.com alpha testing. Kicks off this Wednesday. You can only participate if you are a registered user. Okay? OnStellar.com. OnStellar.com. You're going to love the platform. This is the next great social media platform. With everything that has been going down with social media lately, think about it. It's time for a fresh face. This one has been built for our community. We've got the best and the brightest of the industry leaders out there already to go on the platform when you go and if you're already a registered user and you've got your screen name and you've got all that stuff and you're ready to go, you will see everybody is there, and you can go and dance on the platform and give us your feedback and try to break things. That's the point of alpha testing. But when you get there, you are going to see that it is beautiful. It's everything that you've ever expected and wanted from a social media platform, without censorship, without advertising, without selling your data, decentralized. And when the platform launches, which is going to be in Q3, once all the bugs are ironed out, it's going to have its own digital currency, its own token, its own on-stellar token. It's going to be based on the blockchain. So you will be able to reward those that you want to reward. You will get rewarded for posting and hanging out, and it's our own community. It's huge. The community is so big around the world, and to be able to get together, imagine having your own profile page, just like other social media sites, right? But maybe your own company page. You can do that too. Maybe you want to have a video channel. All of that, all incorporated, all in one place based on the blockchain. And I'm telling you, it's UI, its user interface, and the user experience, the UE, is second to none. The standards are very, very, very high here. And I want everybody to just go check it out on Wednesday, because on Thursday, you are going to send me an email. I guarantee you, church, it's like this, man. You hyped it up, but this is way beyond my expectations. This is amazing. And I'm telling you, it is that cool. It is that cool. So go. Register now on stellar.com. ONSTELLAR.com. Use the promo code Jimmy, and you'll get some bonus tokens when the site goes live. Like 15. So go right now on stellar.com. All right. Let's see. Where am I at? You know what? I'm just going to jump here. I can't even believe I'm saying this now. In 36 days, in 1 month, June 1st through the 4th, is Contact in the Desert 2018 at the Indian Wells Palm Springs Renaissance Resort and Spa. Have you got your tickets? Go to contactinthedesert.com. Okay, we've got a full weekend of events. We're going to kick things off. We'll get there, of course, Thursday night like we do every year. We'll be broadcasting live Friday night, Fade to Black, live studio audience, and then a full weekend of events right after that. So come and hang out with us. We've got a great booth there this year. On Stellar is going to have a booth, and you're going to want to come out there and hang out with us. Okay? It's that simple. Contactinthedesert.com. The biggest UFO conference in the world. Don't forget to sign up for our Soul Tech Gathering, which is going to be at ESETI Ranch this August 9th through the 12th. Just go to soultechgathering.com. 300 tickets sold, 300 Fadernauts. That's it. 300 Fade to Black shirts out there on Skywatcher Field, skywatching. A full weekend of learning, of adventure, of making friends and memories that will last a lifetime. Because I have my experiences at ESETI, and I want you to go and get yours. ESETI Ranch, soultechgathering.com. All right. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, by the way. Over 835 archive shows, just $2 a month. And you can also become a Fadernaut. Just click on the podcast banner at jimmychurchradio.com. You can become a Fadernaut in our membership section of the site, where you get the bunker cam. You get commercial-free downloadable archives. You even get, if you get the Game Changer, you get autographed shirts and hats. Hey, has anybody gotten the new design of the Fade to Black shirts? They've been shipping. Post some pictures. They're really, 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 really cool. I want to see some pictures of you guys wearing those new Fade to Black shirts. And don't forget all of our sponsors here. Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com. Did the tea all weekend, by the way. River Moon Coffee. New Pharma. Ancient Life Oil. Sacred Skulls. New Mana Food Storage. And Bearing Optics. Let's get this show cracking. You guys ready? It's called Field of Dreams, Jimmy. Is that true? I didn't know that. I thought it was called Skywatcher Field. Is it called Field of Dreams? It should be called. Kerr, you ready to throw a party? Pool party. What do you say? Palm Springs. You guys are funny. All right. Happy birthday to today, Valerie Bertinelli. Is 58. Former Miss Eddie Van Halen. Valerie Bertinelli, today 58 years old. Dev Patel today is 28. And I like Dev. Man, I got something in my throat. Sometimes it's in your throat. You know what I mean? It's whatever's there. Anyway, Dev Patel. Dev Patel has had a pretty good run of it, if you think about it. Great in the newsroom. I wish that show never ended. That was a really good show on HBO. Lion, amazing. The Last Airbender. The second best exotic Marigold Hotel. Love that movie. Slumdog Millionaire, of course. And he's got quite the career going. Dev Patel today is 28. Cal Penn is 41. Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. That's the end of that story. Man, I miss White Castle. I wish we would get White Castle out here. I really do. We got Steak and Shake now. We just don't have White Castle. And look, you live in an area where you've got White Castles, and they're there. You never go, right? You don't appreciate it, or you talk, or what have you. I personally love White Castle, but leave a White Castle state and where you just don't get it. And I'm telling you, I miss White Castle. Miss it. We have frozen White Castles that we can buy. And you know what they don't have? The frozen White Castle. You can get the White Castle cheeseburger, but they're singles. You don't get the White Castle double cheeseburger. That was the one. Can't get those. So I have to double them up. So anyway, enough of that. Where am I at? Cal Penn. Our dead guy's birthday today, Roy Orbison, one of the greatest of all time, 1936 to 1988, died at the age of 52. Of course, those hits, right? Oh, Pretty Woman, Crying, Only the Lonely, In Dreams, Blue Bayou, It's Over. Just an amazing, amazing set of pipes. And he performed at the Front Row Theater in Highland Heights, Ohio on December 4th. And this is what is crazy, 1988. Exhausted, he returned to his home in Hendersonville to rest for several days before flying again to London to film 2 more videos for the Traveling Wilburys. On December 6th, he spent the day flying model airplanes with his sons and ate dinner at his mother's home in Hendersonville. Later that day, he just died of a heart attack at the age of 52. On this day in history, OTD, 1967, Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov is killed when his parachute fails to deploy during his spacecraft's landing. Fader fact, a rare Apple I computer built in Steve Jobs' garage in the summer of 1976 was sold at auction in 2014 for $905,000. And there's your Fader Fact today. Tonight, very special guest David Adair is here to discuss his new documentary, America's Fall from Space. Tomorrow night, Corey Good and Gerald O'Donnell are going to join us to talk about remote viewing. Wednesday night, it's Laura Eisenhower. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live, followed by Open Lines all night long. Now, I got to hit this coffee. Let me tell you why. Last week, I think it was on Friday. Last week, I posted on Twitter, why is the mainstream media avoiding Armenia? Why are they avoiding this news? Okay, now I'm going to give a brief description, a brief synopsis, if you will, of what went down. Okay, the reason why I tweeted that out. Armenia, first off, is a very small country. And how do I want to say this? And I want to be correct here. It's an important country. I talk about it all the time. And the fact that it's small doesn't have anything to do with its importance in world history. So many different things, probably in the hundreds, had their first in Yerevan, in Armenia, in the Armenian highlands. Göbekli Tepe, and I say this all the time, you guys need to understand what I'm trying to say here. Göbekli Tepe today is in modern Turkey, but it was built by the Armenians when it was the Armenian highlands. So it's examples of that. First Christian church. So many elements, written languages, metallurgy. So many things started in Armenia first. They've got Karahunj, 3,000 years older than Stonehenge. Karahunj in Armenian means Stonehenge. Right? Armenia is just an important historical place. Today, it has been reduced down to this tiny little country. 3 million people. A lot of people have left. So, a country like that today isn't in the mainstream media. And I don't know why. So many important reasons if there's something going down there, there's so many reasons that we owe Armenia that respect, right? So this is what happens. This is what happened. Now I'm going to give you the short version. You can go and read for yourself, because that's not, it's important, but it's not what is important here and what happened this weekend and how Rita and I experienced it. So stay with me. Okay. They have a new prime minister. His name was Saraj Sargsyan. Sargsyan. I don't know how you say his last name. I've heard it 8 million times. We just call him Serge. Okay. So he was president for 20 years. And through that, everything ended for him earlier this month. Well, actually, last month. And the parliament there, who's all of his old cronies, his buddies, these just thieves, right? Thieves. It's unbelievably corrupt. They pass these new laws and effectively make the prime minister, not him yet, he's still president, the prime minister for life with no term limits. And then after they go and do that, they install him as prime minister. Now all of a sudden he takes over the country for life. And Nicole Pashinyan, we'll just call him Nikola, wouldn't have anything to do with it. He was part of the opposition party. He is a politician. He has immunity. he is a politician, and him and 3 other politicians there in the opposition party organize, how do I want to say this correctly, protest without violence. And he insisted from day one that nobody hurt anything, nobody break anything, nobody burn anything, don't do anything. All we are going to do is we are going to have these protests all around the city at a moment's notice, and we're going to disrupt traffic, we're going to disrupt this, we're going to leave the businesses, schools, we're going to just do this, and we're just going to disrupt. Well, what happened, and the population there, I mean, the good people of Armenia, they were just fed up of being bled dry with these corrupt politicians. All with associations with Mother Russia, but that's another story. Okay, so that's the short version. That's what went down. The protest took off. We're talking big, right? No violence. Everything is cool. They're just disrupting, right? And the Prime Minister, Serge, says, hey, all right, let's sit down and have some dialogue. Let's work this out, right? So Saturday night, Rita comes up to me and goes, oh, my God, they're having the sit-down right now. They're doing it live on television. Now, the Prime Minister, Serge, wanted this to be private. Nicola said, no, we're going to do this in front of the public. Cameras, live. Everybody gets to see our discussion. So the Prime Minister agrees to that. And they go, okay, so now this is what goes down. Remember, it's a 11-hour time difference. Rita and I sit down in bed, popcorn, live feed, ready to go, and we want to watch this dialogue. And hopefully, these protests are going to end and everything is cool and it's going to get worked out, right? Okay, this is what we sit down with the live feed. And this is what happens, and I'm not joking. And this is why I was so upset the day before with the coverage in the mass media. Nobody was talking about it, and nobody was talking about this meeting. It wasn't out there. Of course, it's important to the Armenian people, and the Armenian news and television stations are carrying it, but there's nothing anywhere in the mass media about this. But we've got the live feed. We sit down in bed. And this is what happens. They sit down in these 2 chairs at the Marriott Hotel. Outside of the Marriott Hotel there in Revolution Square are 100,000 people. And they're pissed. Inside, they sit down, and the Prime Minister says, hey, you don't know anything about, I'm paraphrasing here, you don't know anything about politics. Of course, this guy's a politician, Nicola. You don't know anything about politics. You don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. You have 7% of the parliament. I have the majority there, and they voted me in, and that's it. And I understand the Armenian people, and you don't. And that's basically it. You don't want a reminder of March 1st in 2008 when I declared you a terrorist organization and my secret police shut you down. You don't want a repeat of that, do you? So he's like threatening him on the stage. Nicola, cold as ice, sitting there, and lets him say, now the meeting lasts 2 minutes. We were expecting a couple of hours. We got the popcorn, right? And Nicola goes, okay, here's how it's going to play out. You're going to resign. And the Prime Minister starts laughing. And he goes, you're going to resign. 7% of the population. I have 100% of the people's support in this. 100%. Like I said, outside the doors, right in front of them, 100,000 people waiting. And this is what goes down. The Prime Minister looked at him, and he's just like, you know what? Is that it? You're going to threaten me with blackmail? I'm out of here. He gets up and walks out. As he walks out, the press, who was there's 100 cameras. Nobody follows. Prime Minister walks out by himself. Nicola, cold as ice, sits there and talks to the press, which is broadcasting live on Armenian TV. Everybody saw it go down. And he gets up. He walks out into this crowd of 100,000 people. They start cheering. He walks down to the crowd, and they start marching peacefully. It takes about an hour. He walks down, and the police are now surrounding him. It's 100,000 people. On both sides of this column of people, the police are starting to gather, and there's a lot, right? There's a lot, and they're flanking him. They go all the way up to these shields, riot police ready to go, black mask, hard helmets, riot gear, and Nikola's standing there, and he's just talking to a couple of people. The police come out of the barrier, a couple of them come up and start talking to him, like exchanging words. And then in the blink of an eye, live on television, they grab him by his neck and kidnap him. Live on television. And Rita and I are watching this go down. This peaceful demonstration, live on television. This peaceful demonstration, they grab him suddenly, and they take him through the wall of shields. The two other organizers, they grab them, pull them behind the shields, and immediately start firing off tear gas, and just insanity broke out. And Rita and I looked at each other like, did that just happen? It was a blink of an eye. They just grabbed him by his neck and pulled him out of there. Threw him into solitary confinement for 24 hours. Nobody knows where he is. Fast forward to last night. So we watched the protests. We watched everything go down. It was absolutely nuts. People stay up all night. We watch it till the morning. Last night, this is what happened. More demonstrations. The military comes out and starts supporting the demonstrations. Hundreds of thousands of people gather, all from around in and around Yerevan and all of the cities in the countryside. They're all protesting. And then suddenly, and I'm watching this live, the police start disappearing. And I'm like, what's going on here? Military's involved, priests, everybody, just crazy, huge thing. And then guess what happened? They released Nikola. He's free. And the prime minister resigned. That's right. The prime minister that the day before kidnapped him, number one. 2, threatened him. And he resigned. He's now gone. A peaceful revolution. Nobody died. The only violence was caused by the police in some of the arrests that they did. But as far as the people of Armenia, they spoke. They spoke. And all they did was march peacefully. And they got what they deserved, which was getting rid of this criminal and a bright future for the country. And as far as I know, and Rita and I have looked into this, it's the first time in history where you've had a regime change and no bullets, no death, peaceful. And that was our weekend. So think about that. Tomorrow is April 24th, Armenian genocide, which happened at the hand of the Turks. And this revolution went down the day before. Think about that. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, David Adair is here for the first time. Can you believe it? David Adair. I'll be right back with David Adair. Tomorrow night, Corey Good and Gerald O'Donnell. Thursday night, Laura Eisenhower. Thursday night, Fader night, John Rappaport. And there's No More Fake Newsroom Live. It's Monday night, kicking off another amazing week here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Natural Health Solutions with Chris and Ronnie.
Hey, Ronnie, how you doing?
Great, Chris.
Now, you're the CEO of GetTheTea.com, right?
Yes, I am.
What is GetTheTea.com? I mean, is this tea you buy in a store?
Well, no, it's not. Life Change Tea is just that. Life-changing. Life Change Tea is an herbal tea that gently cleanses your body from intruders.
What do you mean by intruders?
Well, intruders are toxins, chemicals, GMOs, heavy metals, and more. They're in our food, in our water, in our air we breathe.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
And Life Change Tea will help you with removing these, as you say, intruders?
That's right, Chris.
Are there side effects with this tea?
Well, you might lose a little weight. When you clean your colon, you lose weight, you feel better, and you have more energy.
Wow. Ronnie, where can people purchase Life Change Tea?
Oh, that's easy. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Ronnie, I want to thank you for being on the show. People, don't forget, GetTheTea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA. The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by Life Change Tea. Starting with their Super Strength Tea, we use Life Change Tea products every day here. All of us, friends, family, co-workers, Life Change Tea. Just go to the Life Change Tea banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code FADER is always going to get you, F-A-D-E-R, FADER, is going to get you free shipping. Tonight, our guest is David Adair. He is an internationally recognized expert in space technology, spinoff applications for industry and commercial use. At age 11, he built his first of hundreds of rockets, which he designed and test flew. At age 17, he won the most outstanding in field of engineering sciences from the United States Air Force. At 19, he designed and fabricated a state-of-the-art mechanical system for changing jet turbine engines for the United States Navy that set world record turnaround times that is still used today. He's a world-class presenter, keynote speaker, seminar and workshop leader, and consultant. His presentations include little-known facts and anecdotes from his involvement with the space program, commercial technology development, films, and the things that he has seen at Area 51. His new documentary on DVD is called America's Fall from Space, a story of scientific collusion. His website is americasfallfromspace.com. The links are at jimmychurchradio.com. I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Mr. David Adair. David, good evening.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, David. How are you? That's the question.
I'm doing fine. Just most interesting commercials you have. I really like them.
Yeah. I think I do them myself.
Yeah, they're good. I like the Vader thing. That was really good.
You never know who's going to do voiceover for us here, and that one was pretty cool. Before we even get started, you get the first-time guest disclaimer. Okay, and the next time you're on the show, you're not going to get it, but tonight you do.
Okay.
And the disclaimer is this, David, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. There it is. You ready to go?
Yeah, that's very cool. I like that.
Now, this is where I want to start, and then we'll take off. But April 13th, Friday the 13th, Art Bell left this earth. And I have stated many times over the years, and certainly through last week, when we're talking about, memorable Art Bell moments, I brought up your name consistently. And I have to ask you, that first interview you did with Art, did you have any idea that would go down in broadcast history the way that it did?
I didn't have a clue. I really wasn't even planning on talking that much. I thought maybe 5 minutes. And we started at 11 o'clock, and we didn't finish till 6 in the morning. That was 7 hours nonstop.
That's incredible.
And, he just kept asking the right questions, and that story, my story, is as I lived it, so it's chronological in order.
Right.
In sequence. And so he just kept following the chronological order, and we kept going, and he was about, something I've never seen anybody do on radio. We about 3 hours into it, and I guess he has faxes and emails and stuff he's looking at that's coming in. And finally he just stopped me, and he said, let me address an issue here. People are critics out there have all these things to say, and he said, I'm just going to have to speak up on this. I said, sure, Art, go ahead. And he goes, listen, y'all, this guy is not going to come in here and tell us a 7-hour lie with hundreds of details. No human on the planet could ever do that. Because it's just not possible. There's nobody can do that. And he said he'll trip up on something. Every time we go back and ask him something, repeat, it's always the same thing over and over. He goes, he's not fabricating, he's recalling. So Art said, I'll leave it at that, but you guys lighten up and just listen to the program. And I thought that was very courteous of Art. And I appreciate that, because he never met me or even heard of me at that time.
No. You were a fresh face for everybody, including myself. But I've listened to that show over and over again many times. Do you ever get tired of people coming up going, dude, man, that Art Bell show, that first one, it must happen constantly, doesn't it? I did it too. It
does a lot. God almighty, I every time I go to any convention or conference, I hear that at least 20 or 30 times before I can get out of there.
Right. It was, because Art was so good in the conversation and so good at asking questions, but also painting the picture for the audience. And because it's radio, and you and Art were the perfect combination. It was, it was the perfect storm that night, right? And your story with his questions painted a picture for everybody, and that show rates up there with some of Art's best, which I don't think anybody's going to argue. He had some great shows, and you're right up there.
Yeah, he seemed like every time I get on the show, the first time was 7 hours. He had me on again, and that went, 6, 7. We went about 5 hours, and then he had me on again, got it down to about 3 hours, and then I took a break, and every once in a while I'd come back, and I could never get away from him from less than 2 hours.
Well, tonight I'm in the pilot's seat, and I really have looked forward to this moment for a very long time. So, welcome to the program, and let's kind of do this for those out there who don't know about your background. You started building rockets at a very, very young age. What got you started in that? Was it the space race that was going on at that time?
A little bit. It was more like the other way around. I think I was into it, and that just happened to be happening. When I was, it started back. Lord have mercy. When I was about 6 years old, I was always interested in rockets and played with them and all. But it wasn't until I got to about age 11 or 12, and I've had enough reading and books that I was capable of really putting in a lot of stuff from theory to applied science. And that's when I started building them. And plus, it didn't hurt the fact that who my dad was a mechanic for, and that's a long story in itself. But he was mechanic to a guy named Lee Petty, who had a son named Richard Petty. Mm-hmm. And if you guys know, anybody knows NASCAR, you know what I'm talking about. And I had those workshops to work with. So imagine I had all that available, and that allowed me to build a lot of really sophisticated rockets. And I started off with solid fuel, like most everybody, and then moved on to liquid fuel, and that kind of separates the home person, because liquid fuel is a cryogenic medium, and you're working with chemicals 325 degrees below zero Fahrenheit, and that's where you can move to things like liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen, and then oxidizers, stabilizers, could be anything. Best I found worked with alcohol, but it was the not the alcohol off the shelf. That stuff is likely to be 60 or 70%. At that time when I was working with them. Instead, I've got moonshine from steel makers we knew here in the South, and that stuff's about 150 proof, and that burned really good. So it's using that kind of chemical applications, and it just all was progressive. It just was leading one step to another, and I was building up to an entirely different type of rocket systems. Like I said earlier, the only two type of rocket engines you've got today in the world is solid fuel and liquid fuel. And the biggest rocket I built, the last one, Pislam, it was neither one. It was something else. It was an electromagnetic fusion containment engine, and that's why it took me 7 hours talking to Art. How did we get up to that stage and level? How could you possibly pull that off? And that's when the cast of characters come in, and it's a bunch.
Well, tell us about that engine. I've heard you talk about this so many times, but one of the points I want to talk about, its components, because you described it as it was like full power, full speed from the word go, right?
Oh, it was. There's no way that type of power plant is what it really is. It's really not designed to be used in, at least in space flight, not to be launched from a planet. It's designed to be launched from space because there's really not a throttle control as you would understand something like a car engine. We don't have fuel injectors or carburetors. This thing, it really only knows two speeds, off and wide open. And when it went wide open in the gravity field of Earth, man, God, that was something that you had to see, because I really wasn't sure how it would perform. As far as the components go, a normal liquid fuel rocket engine would have, they would have twin tanks for their fuels, like liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen. They would have an oxidizer in there. They have the fuel pumps, combustion chamber, and exhaust. And then up at the front where the payload would be, that'd be your nose cone area, and fins. And that's pretty much a rocket. But man, this thing I built, it wasn't anything like that. As a matter of fact, the design was so different, I had to build the engine first. Then I built the rocket body around it. Because General LeMay, Curtis LeMay, that was the guy, my project manager, he asked what kind of rocket body I'm going to use for the engine. I said, well, what's the most powerful thing you got? And he goes, well, we have the Titan missile. That's the state-of-the-art ICBM in 1969. He said, how about that? So I said, yeah, let me have one of them. And now, if you go to Ashland, Ohio, to the Library of Congress of Congressman John Ashbrook, who has deceased, but if you go into his library and talk to curator, he'll pull out of the vault these letters, and one of the first letters that you'll see is from John Ashbrook to me, and the office is saying, while John Ashbrook is out of the office running for president, we're are busy here obtaining the Titan missile for you. Now, let's just stop here for a minute.
Right.
Do you know anything about a Titan missile? They're 130 feet tall, 13 stories high. They have twin 500,000-pound thrusting engines in them. They're the state-of-the-art of an intercontinental ballistic missile in 1969. It takes a military escort to move the thing around. And they're giving that to me. So you look at the date of the letter, and it's June 1970. And I was born in 54. That means you're handing a state-of-the-art ICBM missile to a 15-year-old? Don't you find that a little strange? It's written on the letterhead stationery of Congress of the United States, signed by the committee members. And it's laying there in that library, and you can go look at it anytime you want.
I've read the letter. And it says exactly that. That's what it says.
Well, the producer who made the film, she looked at that letter. She looked back at me, and I thought she was going to faint. And because she originally started off as a debunker. She wanted to disprove anything I was saying. And she did like an Alan J. Hynek. She came on board as a debunker and left as a believer. And she did the documentary. It took us 4 years to make this thing. We traveled to 7 different states. And we went back 42 years in time, and I'm the only person who knows where all this stuff is at.
Right.
For instance, the weld shop that we were using were just one component. It's a flower shop today. You'd have no idea that was a weld shop. And that's why, you just couldn't find the stuff. But I took her through everything, and I told her if she liked that letter, look at the other 12 letters behind it. And it documents my story by Congress, of all people. And something happened to Congressman Ashbrook. He died real quick. And he died because he was about to blow the whistle on this whole thing. He was worried about me. And he got poisoned to death. And he died so fast, and they cremated his body, which his family's still mad about today, because they knew something happened. He just did not die under normal conditions, and they didn't have the body for an autopsy. They just burned it without asking the family, and they're on the film, and you can still see how mad they are today about it. But it happened so fast that all his material was not sanitized when it left Washington and went to the library, which is why all my letters about all I'm talking about is in that library. They got through. They fell through the cracks. They didn't have time to sanitize his records. So I leave a pretty good paper trail. Another paper trail is that another person that's really big in the story, his name is Colonel Arthur Bailey Williams, Colonel Williams, XO to General LeMay. And here's where it really gets interesting. Somebody say, well, we don't believe that. We don't believe the story. Well, anyway, so all you got to do is this. Call the probate judge in Maryville, Tennessee, and ask him who was the executor of the Colonel Williams estate, and he'll tell you David Tyson Adair. How did I Photoshop that? So that proved that Colonel Williams was real, and that, you know, I'm an executor, so I must have knew him sometime. And there's just one thing after another like that in the film. Another good one is I got another guy in the film named Stanton Freeman, and I've never met the man. But the man runs his mouth, and he said all these lies about me, and I decided to rise up and smack him back. The first lie I caught him in was he was making a derogatory remark about my mother. And that's, he draw the line in the sand on that issue. And he said my mother was some kind of caregiver to LeMay's parents. That is so far not true. What it was, my mother, my dad was injured in an accident. My mother had to go back to work. And she started out at age 40 as a candy striper, which is the person that volunteers at a hospital. Then she went to nurse's aide, and then my mother went to college and became an LPN, a licensed practical nurse. And she did this in 1966. Now, that's back there, y'all. In 1966, for a woman at an LPN, they put her in charge of something that was just built. It was all new coming out, called a CCU unit, coronary care unit, which is, you know, today so common you don't even pay attention to it. But when the first ones were built, let me tell you, that was a big thing. Newspapers did stories. People come out and take pictures. It's saying my mother was a female, first female in Ohio to be in charge of a coronary care unit at third shift. She loved working from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. Now, that might not seem important, but it's very important because she was looking over this patient who was 93 years old and was a cranky old guy. And my mother had to deal with him a lot. And he even knocked out one of her nurses with a cane. And she went down there with his cane and broke it on his headboard next to his head and said, "It's going to be across your eyes if you hit one of my nurses again." So he started behaving better, and his son would come to visit him. And his son would come in about 2 or 3 in the morning or 4 because he had a paparazzi problem. This was that man laying in bed, the patient, his name was Irving LeMay. He has a son named Curtis. And he would show up with Arizona LeMay. That's his mother, General Curtis' mother, and wife of Irving LeMay. So they had to go through my mother to visit. So that's how she met General Curtis LeMay. And who is he? Well, for those of you that don't know your history, he's a former 4-star Air Force general who was a chief of the Joint Chiefs. He was also the designer of the B-52 Stratofortress. Then he founded SAC, Strategic Air Command. And he was a very much active general in World War II, and he earned the nickname, his name was Bombs Away LeMay. And he was the guy that made this famous statement. A lot of people remember it, but they don't remember who said it. He was in charge of the Air Force when we were doing Vietnam, and he told North Vietnam, if you don't come to the Paris peace talks, I'm going to bomb you people back into the Stone Age. And next day, he was fired by Robert McNamara. Y'all remember that name?
Oh, of course.
The former, Secretary of Defense. So he gets fired, and believe it or not, that's always bearing straight at me. Because the moment that happened, he changed gears, and I became next thing in focus because he was far from being ready to be retired. And I think he was only 61 at the time that happened. So anyhow, he ran for this guy. You just got to read up on General LeMay. There was not too many people like him on this planet. He had an agenda, and he wasn't through. So he ran as vice president of the United States with a running mate as president, no other than George Wallace, the Alabama governor who got shot.
Right.
Anyway, on November, second Tuesday of November in 1968, they lost their election run. So that's an important date, November 1968, because after the holidays, it's January 6th, 1969, I get a knock on the front door of my house, open the door, and there's a full bird colonel standing there named Colonel Williams, XO of General LeMay, and he said, the general would like to fund you and everything you need to build the kind of rocket that he had been talking to you about. And what happened, let me back up a little bit. LeMay would ask my mother, usual social questions, how's your family? What do you got? You got kids? And she told him 3 boys, 2 older boys are okay, but that youngest one, we got to keep an eye on him. Well, why is that? Well, he's always blowing up stuff and launching things. Launching what? Well, rockets out in these cow fields. Really? How fast it goes? She goes, he says they're moving about anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 miles an hour. And how high they go? He said they were at 52,000 feet. That's 10 miles up. And he goes, God almighty, does he write anything down in books? He says, yeah, he's got this one big book he carries around and writes in it all the time. So he asked my mom to bring it to him. I go to bed at 11 o'clock. She goes to work, and she took my notebook, and I didn't even know it. LeMay reads it, and then he turns to my mother and asks her, do you have a copier here? So he photocopies about a third of my book. I didn't know anything about it. And then he takes it down to a place called Battelle Memorial. You ever heard of that place?
No, I haven't.
Battelle Memorial is one of the largest think tanks in America. It's a direct competitor of RAND, and they're straight across the street from Ohio State University. They looked at the papers, and he asked them, is it just a bunch of chicken scratch, or is there something serious in there? And they said, where is this individual in the institution doing this work? And he said, it's not an institution, it's just a kid. You're kidding. And is there something there? He goes, yeah, the guy's working on an electromagnetic fusion containment device. And very few people in 1968 even knew what that was. So it got his attention. And then he did a little bit more research and had some of my stuff checked out. And then next thing I know, on January 6, 1969, there's his XO beating on my door. And they're ready to start the project. And we start. And there's so much detail, so many hours of all kinds of stuff, just crazy things happen. For instance,
well, hold on. Before we change gears here, I need to take a commercial break. So let's do that. Absolutely. And then when we come back, I want to hear more about the electromagnetic fusion containment device. And we kind of blew past, David, the whole Titan missile. So we got to talk about that too as well. We'll finish those thoughts and a whole lot more when we come back. Our guest tonight, David Adair. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go back, Lee Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Use the promo code and get 15% off of your order. That promo code is F2B Blend. Click on the River Moon Coffee banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Our guest tonight, David Adair. We're talking about his new DVD documentary called America's Fall from Space. And David, okay, so where we left off, let's back up. Did you ever get the Titan missile?
Oh yeah. Well, I saved a lot of really on the logistics, and I went to where the missile was at, and I did some measurements and tests, and LeMay asked me, well, how's that going to do? And I asked him, I answered his question with a question. I asked Curtis LeMay, I asked him, what's going through a mosquito's mind when he hits a windshield at 80 miles an hour? And he goes, what? His ass. And I said, that's exactly what's going to happen. This engine is so powerful. When we go to launch it, the engine is going to rip through the rocket and it just keep on going. So the rocket is way too weak in structure. So he was a little perplexed because he said, that's the most powerful thing we got. Well, it's just not going to do. So I had to rethink everything. And I asked him, well, I tell you what, he was the person to ask in a project like this. This guy, he was retired at the time we were doing it, just retired. And but retirement didn't slow him down at all. He still had carte blanche with the entire Iron Triangle, and he put it to work. And I told him, I said, we're going to have a new type of metals to work with. And is there anything out there that you know of? So he sent all his feelers out, and by golly, something came back. We found this metal. It was only located in England and nowhere else. And I got in trouble last time with Art Bell over this. I'm from the South. I don't pronounce everything correctly. I come from, I approach English as a second language because I'm Southern. I come from the world where y'all is singular and all y'all is plural.
Right.
So, anyway, let's just see if I can get this right. We found this material called carbonite. Now, people started calling in and saying, "Oh, he's a liar. That's that stuff they froze Han Solo in." No, that's carbonite. This stuff is called carbonite. And carbonite is a substance where the origin is, quite frankly, it's listed in the metallurgy journals as unknown. We don't know where it came from. There was about 2,000 pounds of it, and it was all in England, and we got it all. And it is, you ever think about metals? For instance, you'll see molten metal in big melting plants, and they're pouring the molten metal into a big crucible that can hold. What's the crucible made of? If it's holding molten metal, it must be pretty wicked. Well, that stuff is Inconel, but this stuff was about 100 times the thermal strength of Inconel. So, and we don't have a clue where it came from. But the other odd thing about it is once we got through processing it, in its final state, it was so shiny, had such a sheen, it looked wet. But it wasn't. It was just the sheen of the metal itself, which really amazing. It made my rocket look really cool. It really was pretty.
How big?
But anyway,
well, I wanted to ask you this: how big the EM fusion containment device? How large was it?
Okay, it's trying to put it in. It's about 4 feet in length. Mine was.
Okay.
And it's about 18 inches in diameter. And to give you an idea of what it looks like, it's the best description I come up with. Think of 2 octopuses having sex. That's what it looked like. You have on each end these round areas, which is where my cyclotrons are. And I could speed them up, and all the tentacles would be the plasma directions shafts that I built, and they're all intertwined. And what you do, you spin the cyclotrons to a point where you're reaching nearly the speed of light, and that's another thing. Only one person out of all the years I heard this, over 25 years ago, only one person asked me a really cool question. I thought about things. He asked, "Well, what kind of power system did you use to power the spinning of the cyclotrons?" And I thought, now that's an excellent question. This thing was by today's standards, this thing was highly illegal. I had dual nuclear batteries on each end. And believe me, that was plenty of power to spin things. But anyway, what happens, let me explain what the design comprises of itself. It's electromagnetic fusion containment. What that is that unlike taking a atom reaction for a nuclear weapon, for instance, you would split an atom, atomic bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Then you got even more powerful with the introduction of Edward Teller, who designed the H-bomb. And the H-bomb is where you're fusing 2 atoms together. So now you're moving from fission to fusion. But what you all have never met, you have met the evil twin of the twins in nuclear power. The fission and fusion are the evil twins. You've never met fusion containment. That's the good twin. You haven't met that one yet. In fusion containment design, let me show you how we differ so vastly from the standard today's nuclear reactors. First of all, cannot have a meltdown. Physically impossible. They have big pile rods. All I have is 2 baby peas of fuel. You cannot make nuclear weapon grade fuel with it. That's another good thing. Also, like I said earlier, you will not have a meltdown problem. And it's the containment fields. My temperatures inside the engine when it's running is right around 100 million degrees centigrade. That's about 10,000 times hotter than the core of the sun. Now, people go, well, no material can withstand that. That's absolutely true. That's why we use magnetic fields to contain it. And that's you got to remember, I was doing this back in 1966, 68. So there wasn't a whole lot of research going on in that area. But the power that you have, once you get the chain reaction, collide your opposing particles, which I use as elements, I use deuterium. And guess what deuterium comes from? Seawater. How much fuel do we have?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. And what I'm building, I never was building a nuclear-powered rocket. That never was my intention. I am building a different kind of nuclear power plant. And the rocket was the only medium that I could find to use to verify the sustainment of the fields. And that's the whole key to everything. But once you get detonation occurred and then the energy starts, and I shape mine, the reason I have two round ends on the thing, they have been working, the fusion containment community. If you go to the internet, you'll see there's a community. They've been around for a long, long time. And they've been trying, fusion containment is the holy grail of nuclear physics. So everybody's in the world been trying to get it. There's a reactor closing in on it in England, but they're still going to have a problem. The biggest problem that they have is that everybody's been on the wrong design for the last 80 years. And the official word from the fusion containment community, they'll get containment with $80 billion more in 40 more years. That's odd. 1968, I got fusion containment. I didn't get it for very long.
Yeah, well, the obvious is, how did you pull that off?
Well, it's my design. My design is way better, and it's the only one that I've seen that's going to get us there, and nobody else is building it. My design is so simple. What's the number 8 turned sideways in math?
Infinity. Yeah.
That's the shape of the engine. It's in the figure 8 flow pattern. So no matter how fast it's going or how much fury it's building up, it's chasing its own tail, like the dragon in mythology. So it's self-containment. They're not going to get that. They're only using one cyclotron. So we're tutorial compressors. So it's they only got half of it. They're never going to get there without the other half. And I've told them over the years about it. Nobody's listening. They like status quo where they're at. And why their official word is $80 billion and 40 more years? 40. That's the number of years in a career. So they just get granted up and run a career and retire. They don't care whether they get fusion containment or not. But my math is better, I think. I don't have any other answer for why they are not there yet. Now, I only got a sustained field for about 4.5 seconds, and that may not sound like much, but considering that the fusion containment community and everybody else, NASA, Lord have mercy, those people spent $14 billion, and they were able to get to, I think, 0.0007864 at 1 second. I'm at 4.5 seconds. That's an eternity ahead. And it was just enough time for me to be able to do a launch window with a rocket, and that's how we're able to get to the launch of this thing. Basically, truthfully, it wasn't a controlled launch. It was a controlled explosion, and it went vertical. But the field's obviously sustained because if they hadn't, Colonel Williams and Arthur Rudolph and all the other people that was around me, they about had a heart attack when we were getting ready to launch this thing. And I'm jumping out of sequence on this story like Pulp Fiction. I'm telling you whole vignettes that's broken out of the chronological timeline.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm following you, and so is everybody else. So go ahead, continue.
So if there's gaps and things, I can go back and can explain it. I mean, it's just I lived the dang thing, every day. It took me 26 and a half months to build the thing, and I'd go to school every day like every other kid. I tried to have a normal life, and then I'd come home in the afternoon, and the Air Force people would be waiting. I instructed them to change into blue jeans and plaid shirts so they blend in with everybody and get out of the uniforms. And then what happened was, I'm backing up now again. My shop. What happened was my parents bought a house in Mount Liberty, Ohio, and it had a commercial garage on one end of the property, like a dealership.
Right.
But it was closed and abandoned, and but it was in good shape. And then there was a house at the other end. So they moved me out of the basement of the house because Dad thought I was going to blow everybody through the house and launch them. So they put me out there in that dealership. Well, by the time Colonel Bell shows up, he asked me, "You got any ideas where you want to do assembly?" I said, "Well, did you see the big dealership building down?" "Yeah, who owns that?" "We do." So he and I went down there, and he brought this army in. I mean, literally an army of construction people. And they overhauled that thing from inside out, and we blocked off all the windows, and we made this fake sliding wall that we could pull things in and out, and it worked out really well, but it became a really nice state-of-the-art shop. It had every kind of machine and instrument you could think of, plus I had the entire Iron Triangle at my disposal, and that's how we started. First thing I ordered was a vacuum chamber. If you ever done this kind of work, you realize that's the first thing you got to have. And I had to build that thing from scratch because it had to do certain things that most vacuum chambers don't do. But anyhow, I was assembling under construction, and LeMay calls me on the home phone, and I'm answering, and we're on a party line. Most people don't even know what that is anymore. Party line is where you have a telephone line, but you have maybe 8 or 9, 10, 12, 14 families on that line. And if anybody picks up the phone, they can listen right in.
Right.
That's honest God truth. So LeMay and I are talking, and somebody said, "I've got to get Sally to cheerleader practice. You guys get off this line." And LeMay goes, "What is that?" I said, "We're on a party line." The next day, this truck shows up with telephone poles, and they string out a whole different telephone line for us to talk on. So that's what I meant by this story is just nuts, one thing after another like that. And so we got our own secured telephone line, which my brothers loved. But anyway, this thing evolved. We had a facility. We were assembling things and putting it all together. And we would farm out all the stuff that we need done. It was really very cool the way it turned out. We just modularized the entire engine. So we'd send parts somewhere to get something fixed, and they wouldn't let me see all the addresses, and that's too bad because I really want to know who was all involved. But I did get to see some labels coming and going. There was Lawrence Livermore Laboratories, National Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. There was Los Alamosis, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Battelle Memorial. There were just so many big institutions involved in this thing. So we'd have to send out parts. They knew the part might be going to some kind of reactor, but they're not sure what. So I'd come back and I'd assemble everything together. And we went on like that every day, 7 days a week, through the holidays, nonstop. And 26 and a half months later, we get done.
Now, how big was the carbonite body? Was it like a one-piece shell?
Yeah, it was. It actually, for a more accurate description, it was more like pretzels twisted around an engine. Most people see a rocket, like you see it, rocket catalogs. You got a body, a tube, and you got 4 fins, and you got a nose cone. This thing had none of that. It was something from, it looked like a cross between Flash Gordon and George Jetson. I mean, this thing looked like something from another planet. And the other thing that I was faced with was exact opposite of what you're building a rocket. When you build a rocket, you try to make it light as possible. So you can get altitude. I was trying to make this thing as heavy as I could. I would have welded safes on it if I could have gotten away with it, because I didn't know how powerful the curve would be on this thing. I knew to make it heavy because I knew that on the launch, the G-forces, the gravitational forces are going to be just mind-boggling. We're not talking 12, 14 Gs. We're talking 300 or 400 Gs because it's just going to be so fast when it's leaving. So I had to build everything much heavier inside. All the structures had to be heavy, where you would use like a little angle iron or angle brace for something. I'd use a solid block.
Right, right. Where did you...
It got heavy. The overall length of it, about 14 feet.
That's it.
And about 36 inches diameter, 14 feet in length. But it had the most aerodynamic shape, and I really didn't even care about aerodynamics, really. But it just turned out where it looked really good. And so it was ready to go, and we had to take it somewhere because we sure couldn't launch it in the cow field.
Right.
So they put it on I'll never forget this, a semi came in, and it had Piggly Wiggly on the side of it. That's typical Air Force people. And they load a rocket in, and off we go. We drive to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio. And there was a C-141 Starlifter there. And we loaded Pislam onto that. And then we went on down to the proving grounds at New Mexico, White Sands. And that's where we set up to do our launch. And that's a story in itself. If you go into all the details, it's really funny. It takes about an hour to tell that part of it. But we get ready for launch. Launch it, we head for... it's important to slow down and throw in some of the stuff because there's a lot of things going on when I say this. And like this guy joined in the story. This guy is named Arthur Rudolph. Look him up in the internet. What a character he was.
You're talking about...
At the time I met him, he looked like somebody's grandfather. A little blue eye, snow-haired...
You mean Operation Paperclip, Arthur Rudolph?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay,
his
hold on.
His doctor title, by the way, is honorary.
Okay, hold on right there, David, hold on for a second.
Yeah.
I wanted to, because of what the EM fusion containment engine was about, with the normal launch pad, you've got external fuel tanks, you're fueling up the rocket, you've got cooling systems, you've got you've got all of that stuff going on. You have to prep for the launch. It takes forever. But you didn't have to, the launch pad, I'm imagining you don't have anything there, do you?
No, all I needed was a pad and electrical substructures, and so we can relay commands through the onboard navigation computers, all the launch sequences. I'd had an umbilical tower for all the electrical attachments, but I didn't need all the other things that they had. Of course, being who they were, they had everything. They had, liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen. You're right, fueling tanks. That's the beauty of this system. No, it's all self-contained.
Right.
Well, also the problem because what happens if we're standing there? We've been there for about a day and a half, and that morning this black DC-9 lands at White Sands, and it was a joke at the time. I asked Colonel Williams, "Where's the white bunny head?" Because Hugh Hefner had a black DC-9 at that time period and flying around for Playboy, and I looked at Colonel Williams, and he wasn't smiling. He looked really upset, and I thought, "Oh, this is not good." I asked, "Who is that?" And he goes, "I think we got some serious problems." And he said, "Let's see who gets off the plane." And sure enough, there was 3 first guys off the plane, black suits, mirror, sunglasses, so help me. And then one guy with little khaki shorts and shirt, looks like Steve Irwin, who just came off a safari. And I thought he's the only one dressed for the place. But that turned out to be Dr. Arthur Rudolph. And then Colonel Williams said, "We're in trouble." So I knew his face because Warner von Braun had showed me a picture of them when they came through Operation Paperclip. And he told me if I ever run into this individual and you're on a project, you're going to be in such serious trouble. And
why?
Man, because he wasn't. Although he was awarded the Distinguished Service Award from NASA, the highest award NASA can give. They gave it to him because he was the chief architect of the F-1 Saturn V Apollo engines that took us to the moon. So he did know rocketry. But also, over in Peenemünde, he was more than just, a rocket scientist. He also was SS. And he was a Gestapo person. And von Braun was afraid of him. He said he's a dangerous individual. And Rudolph was guilty of murdering 100,000 people personally. He would kill them in metalworks when they were building the V-2 rockets. And if you made a mistake on the assembly line, he had you disemboweled and hung from the rafters by your intestines.
Well, are you suggesting that von Braun was saying that you could be, physically threatened by this guy, or was there another reason?
Yeah, he'd kill us all. He's a psychotic maniac. He's mass murdered all these tens of thousands of Czechoslovakian Jews, and that were working in metalwork. May 25th, 1984, he was deported real quietly out of San Francisco, Rudolph was, to Munich, Germany, placed under house arrest where he died for war crimes. NASA didn't want to tell you that. That's their winner of the Most Distinguished Service Award. But the reason I'm telling you this is a good tie-in to the story. He comes up to me. I know who he is, but he doesn't have a clue I know who he is. And I asked him, who are you? And he goes, I'm just somebody that looks at new technologies for the U.S. military. I said, okay. So come on in and have a look. He said, yeah, I heard about your rocket. So we get in there, and I go, in your name? He goes, I'm nobody. So I open up the side of Pythlum, and I used with this carbonite material, I was able to build something called a dissimilar lock. It's old technology. It's back in World War II. You can look it up. But you take a block of opposing metal and run it down the side, and the locks will release internally. That way I don't have any seams on the rocket body. So the door suddenly appears in the skin of this thing, raises up and slides to the side, and you can look inside. So he wanted to know how I got that technology. I said, it's been around since World War II. How come you don't know about it? Oh, now he's mad. So he bends down, he's grumbling, he's got his head down inside Pythlum, and when he's doing that, I'm on the other side of the rocket, so I lean over and put my mouth down by his ear, and I go, see that engine you're looking at? It's got hundreds of thousands of times more powerful than all 5 F-1 rocket engines combined that you designed, Dr. Rudolph. Man, his head sprung up so fast. And he asked me again who I was. And I said, I'm nobody. I'm just a kid that launches rockets in cow fields in Ohio. And so it just went downhill from there with him. But he ended up taking over the project. And he put Colonel Williams under house arrest and locked him in his quarters. And then he told me where he wanted this rocket to land.
Okay,
and
now let's hold on. Let's take a break right there. That's a perfect spot. We'll do that right now. Our guest tonight, David Adair. Yeah, we're at White Sands with Arthur Rudolph, and he's got his rocket that they built in Ohio, and we will pick up right where we left off. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More David Adair after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by New Pharma. GNU Pharma. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go to the site and read about all of the science behind New Pharma. Promo code is F2B, F, the number 2B, and you will get 33% off of your order today. Our guest tonight is David Adair. Now, David, I need the short version of this because I want to get back to White Sands. The engine, the electromagnetic fusion containment engine device motor, you describe it as a ball on each end with octopus legs entangled in the middle. I can envision that, but how does the exhaust? I mean, how does that happen?
Oh, okay. Running down through the cord line of the engine, which a cord line is a perfect center, like CG through the engine. At each end, and I only used one end, but you can use a plasma beam that's coming off of the initial shock wave of the ignition system. And that plasma beam will open an electromagnetic field, and through the refraction or diffraction of the frequencies, I can open and close an orifice inside the electromagnetic fields. And as far as I know, I'm probably the only one that did that. But it's a little complicated. it's complicated to describe. It's even more complicated when you try to build it. But when you have an opening at the end of an engine, of a rocket engine, and you can open it or close it, that area is called specific impulse. And that's the heart and soul of a rocket engine. And that's where you can control the acceleration, deceleration of something like a liquid fuel driven engine. So the principle should work on a fusion engine. What's different is the electromagnetic fields. There's a proprietary way I came up with where I can shape fields. And by shaping the fields, I extended the fields outside the fins of the rocket so the exhaust can come out there. And you really want to do that because, man, the exhaust coming off this thing is at right out about 100 million degrees centigrade. So if it encounters anything of material-wise, it's gone. So I have the fields are extended out past the rocket engine and the tail fins of the rocket body, and it's provided by a plasma beam that is controlling the specific impulse, which then gives me abilities of somewhat control for accelerating, deaccelerating. And did that make sense?
Yeah, well, close enough for somebody like me. I'm envisioning it now.
Okay.
So nothing is burning. That's the thing here.
No, not the engine's exhaust and force never got near the rocket. It's shielded,
right?
And otherwise, it wouldn't be there.
Right,
but,
right.
However, it's a different story for the launch platform.
Well, that's my question. The launch pad.
Yeah,
what does it do? Just disintegrate?
Well, what happened? What happened? We've prepped the thing for launch. It's on the pad. It's about 2 miles away from us. We're in a blockhouse. We're looking at it, and we is me, the launch crew, Tim, assembly people, security, Dr. Rudolph, and Colonel Williams.
Hold on. Now we got to back up for a second. You had said that Dr. Rudolph sticks his head inside and looks at the engine. Obviously, he's never seen anything like this before. What happened there? Did you guys go fisticuffs? What happened?
It was close to it, and so Colonel Bell comes over and he starts having words with Rudolph, and then you can clearly see it's a territorial thing, and finally Rudolph, I guess he was able to pull rank, but unless he was absolutely needed, like for the launch, Colonel Bell was locked in his quarters. So it's lunchtime. We're in the blockhouse. Colonel Bell's released because I need him there to help me coordinate things. So we got everything coordinated, and Rudolph's standing there, and he's got security all over the place. And so anyway, we send the signals out to the pad, and it's a pad, big pad area, little towers and little building support stuff, vehicles, just Jeeps, things like that, just off to the side. And I had suspicions telling everybody anything that could be moved, I suggest you bring it about 2 miles in. But I decided to be quiet and just let it go. And they thought it was going to be a normal launch. A rocket, they've launched so many rockets, and the rocket that size, if it's a liquid fuel, they pretty much can tell what it's going to affect the pad or not. And so they didn't see any threat. But they had no idea what was sitting there. So we start the initial sequences, and the ignition system's coming on. And I don't know why, of all times, for Colonel Williams to ask me this question, Dr. Rudolph was standing next to me, and he said, it was Dr. Rudolph did it. He asked Colonel Williams, well, how did the test go on the containment fields? And Williams and I are looking at each other. I turn around to Rudolph and I go, what test? This is the test. We've been going at breakneck speed for 26 and a half months. I barely had time, to get my pants on. Things moving so fast. I haven't had time to test it. I've tested individual parts on stress tests and other maximums, they all worked out fine. But this is the first test of the field units. I had no other way to set them up. So Rudolph looks a little concerned because, he knows nuclear physics, and Colonel Williams really concerned. So I said to both of them, I said, look at this. See this flat wall behind us? Do this. And I did a jumping jack. I said, you'll leave the coolest shadow on that wall if it doesn't work. They didn't find that funny. Colonel Bell went, oh, God, and he hits the red button to shut everything down. And it's too late. The thing has done switched over to internal power. It's on its own now. It doesn't need us anymore. And Rudolph, he's got a white-knuckle grip on the cabinet that he was leaning against. And I said, I guess we're going to find out, guys, because if that electromagnetic field don't stabilize and hold, we're going to be staring at a sun 2 miles away instead of 93 million miles. And they went, oh, God. So the thing starts, you could feel it in the ground. That was the first thing you could feel was vibrations. That's because cyclotrons are coming on. They're spinning out there. And then the ignition sequence started, and you could see a distortion of things you're looking at, and that's the electromagnetic fields out there. They are sustaining themselves outside the craft. And then came this light. And I had told everybody, I believe this thing's going to reach over 1 million candle power per square inch. That's the sun. So we had all the proper glasses on. I said, I think y'all better drop your glasses. And it got, first thing that came up was kind of like a bluish light, and that was really getting hot. Then it went to white, and then it went to clear. Then it went to like what we call diamond brilliance. It's just something you'd be familiar with, an arc welder.
Right.
The arc welder light. We got to that intensity, but now multiply that arc welder by about 10,000 times.
How long did it take? How long did it take to go through these 3 or 4 stages of light?
I would say about 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
And yeah, we're all in seconds here. So it just started coming on, getting brighter, 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 until you just can't look at it anymore. And then there's this explosion, and the place shakes, and a shock wave comes at us. We can see it coming across the ground, hits us, and dust and dirt flying everywhere. And you don't see any rocket. And everybody thought it blew up, except somebody asked, what's that out there? And it looks like it's hard to describe. It's like a white tornado, but it's a tornado on steroids. It's not all that big, but it is so violent looking. And everything on the pad is gone. It's sucked up into this white tornado thing. Trucks, little buildings, umbilical towers. I mean, anything that was even welded was gone. The only thing left was some of the pad, and some of it went up. And somebody asked me, what is that? And honest to God, I'm standing there going, I don't know. I'm learning this along with the rest of you as we do this. I've never launched anything. But I tell you, the one thing everybody failed to ask about is the sound that this thing made. I got goosebumps. Every time I even think about it, the sound is so unlike anything you've ever heard. No one's ever heard a fusion containment engine ripping loose in our atmosphere. And when it did, I figured out what the white thing, the tornado thing was. First of all, everybody thought the rocket blew up and is gone. And this was just some kind of, after effect. Until the red phone rang on the desk. The red phone is NORAD. And you could pick it. Colonel Bell picked it up, and you could hear the guy on the other end of the phone. He is just screaming. He's going, what are you people doing over there? And they went, well, we had a civilian rocket blow up. Blow up? Well, I wouldn't call it blowed up. We're tracking it at 125 miles up. And did you guys catch the speed? It covered 120 miles in about 3.2 seconds.
How fast is that? How fast is that?
You know, I didn't even sit down to even calculate it. It's in the tens of thousands of miles an hour.
Right.
And that's not impossible because at that time they had a rocket named, what is it? Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt traveled at 30,000 miles an hour. But mine had to be close to a couple 100,000 miles an hour.
Right.
It's just so fast. Later, when I got time to look at Pislam, so much stuff was bent and distorted, and the frame structures that were holding some of the functional parts, they were solid blocks, and they were just completely had the imprint of the device they were holding buried into it. It was just so much gravitational forces. If any human was on board something like that, leaving that fast, you would have been soup. You'd have been a liquid.
Well, what did you? Okay, so you didn't see it. Nobody saw it.
No.
Was there?
No, nobody. When they actually found the technicians' rooms give me sympathy looks, so they thought my rocket blew up, and I knew better. And anyhow, the guy on NORAD, he confirmed it. He said, "Do you know where it's going?" They said, "Yes, we do." I said, "Okay," and they hung up. And Rudolph made me set the coordinates on just off-the-shelf navigation is all we needed. But I could have brought it down within a mile or two of us. We barely had to walk to get it. But he wanted it somewhere else. He wanted to go, I can't remember the exact thing. I think it was 456 miles northwest of us. And it puts it dead center in a place called Groom Lake, Nevada. And that's the only name I ever knew that place by. We never heard the word Area 51 back then. This is 1971. So I went and got the maps and pulled them out, and the government geophysical maps showed a big dry lake bed. And I asked Rudolph, I said, "Why are we dropping this thing in a dry lake bed?" He said, "Well, we're going out to it." "On what?" And he goes, "The plane I flew in on," acting like I was stupid or something. I went, "Well, did you notice there's rubber tires under those wings? When you land in that dry lake bed, you're going to plow up to the wings and you ain't going nowhere." He just told me to shut up and get on the plane, and I did. And Colonel Williams was sent back to his room, and that was
sent back to his room. By the way, David, 135,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, God almighty. What can I say, y'all? It's kind of quick. I guess I get a speeding ticket.
Yeah, what about... Yeah, but, right. What about... That must have... What about a sonic... it sounds trivial at 135,000 miles per hour.
No, that's an excellent question. I'm skipping on this part. That's why it took Art Bell 7 hours to get through the story.
Right.
What happened was the first shockwave came off, and it went past us. And I felt so sorry for people outside the building. There was just security personnel. And by the way, an old-timer called in to Art Bell, and he asked me the day of the launch thing. I said it was June 20th, 1971. He said, "Oh, man," he goes, "that fills in the missing blank. What are you talking about?" And he goes, "That's the only day I remember working my entire career at the range. That was the only day where the entire range was closed down and no one was allowed to be outside and everybody had to stay in the buildings." And that's exactly what Arthur Bell and Rudolph had them do, except for security people who were outside enjoying the wind. And I looked out there and there was a guy hanging on a pole, and he looked like a vertical flag. His feet were straight out. It's such a force coming off that thing. And then back to the white tornado. I wasn't sure what it was until a split second later I saw it coming. And what it is, Pislam has left so fast that, and it's big, it's heavy, moving that fast, it ripped a vacuum from the pad to space. And it's instant. And Mother Nature abhors the vacuum. You've heard that.
Right.
So it started slamming the atmosphere, started slamming the vacuum shut, starting at the least points of resistance at that altitude. So it's coming down real fast. You can see the white part disappearing and disappears already back into the pad. And here goes the second explosion. And it's coming bad, shockwave just as bad as the first one. And the people are just getting up and cleaning themselves off. They grab the poles again, they're out there in the wind. And so now they got a second wave like that. And it was like a sonic boom, but it was so much heavier and resonant. You could feel it. We were in a blockhouse, and we could feel it going through our chest as it swept through the building. And, I mean, that's a blockhouse building. So the people outside weren't harmed, but they were not having a good day. You could just tell they had a hard time getting a breath, I guess. And also the sound. That was the other thing. It's eerie. It sounds almost human. It's like screaming angels. I guess it's the atmosphere. The molecules are reacting to the speed, trying to get out of the way. And when they can't get out of the way fast enough, you have a snap and you got a sonic boom. Well, this sonic boom that this thing had, it wasn't a few seconds because it wasn't being drug across the ground. It's straight over top of us. So the boom stayed there for about maybe 15 seconds, which was eternity.
Wow.
It was so loud. And it was just different. It was just everything, still familiar things in physics, but just put together differently. And it just reacted in ways we've never seen. So after all that, we get on board the plane, take off, and in a short time we were there coming up on Area 51, or for me, Groom Lake. And this is where some people have, say, controversy. It's not a controversy.
Well, before David...
I described runway.
Well,
the
David...
runways aren't there yet. This is
David,
1971.
Let me jump in. Hold on. I don't know. Are you having problems hearing me?
No, not at all.
Okay. So let me jump in really quick.
Okay.
It ended up at Groom Lake, but what about the guidance system? Were you pointing it there, or did it just go that way? How did it end up there with the guidance system that you had on the rocket?
Oh, the guidance system was analog. That was the first thing we had to work with. Also, it was preset, and even the preset numbers are locked in analog-wise. You know, they're like rotating physical, electromechanical numbers. And I used that kind of a off-the-shelf stuff because I thought if this centrifugal force and gravity field is going to be so intense, these numbers are going to lock in place, literally being squashed into place. So once again, the three-dimensional gyroscope that I had, it also had a shielded area. I told you I had proprietary rights on shields. I could manipulate shields. So that compartment area was shielded. It didn't feel anything. And which, by the way, I don't want to get off subject, but I think I can give you a really good explanation about a UFO craft. You know, you see them coming in at 5,000 miles an hour, making a 90-degree corner. What in God's name could survive that kind of gravitational torrent?
Nothing.
If the aliens are organic, they're going to be like liquid. They're going to be just torn to pieces by a 5,000 mile an hour, 90-degree turn.
Right.
They make it keep on going. Well, they must be using some type of form of electromagnetic fusion drive, and they have others, but I'll guarantee you they got to have the same kind of electromagnetic fields I had, because they'll have a field in their engine, then they'll build a secondary field over the crew compartment, thus allowing them to make whatever speed turn they want to make, and they'd feel nothing. It's an inertia dampener, is what I discovered in my math. And then, what is an inertia dampener? Best way to describe it, Bugs Bunny did it for me. You remember when Bugs and his friends were in an airplane, they ran out of fuel and was crashing the earth, and the plane was going so fast, the wings ripped off, and they're just a dart, and they're all screaming they're going to die. And right before impact, Bugs opens the door, and they step out, and the airplane crashes.
Right.
Remember that?
I do.
That's not a cartoon. That's an inertia dampener for real. That's exactly how it would work. So that's how you little guys can fly around their UFOs and not be affected by the gravity field. And also, you think when they blink and then they peer over here and they blink and they peer over there, they're not traveling on a linear point from point to point. What they're doing, I'm really getting so way ahead of myself. There's 4 different phases to my engine. And on phase 4, that's where you would do star travel. And what you would do, you'd have a primary field around the engine. You put a secondary field around the spacecraft. Then a secondary field would reach out to a point that you would pre-navigate. And you would, let's say you want to go to Andromeda Galaxy. That's 200 million light years from here. At 186,756.54 miles per second, the fastest speed there is, speed of light, it would still take you 200 million years to get to Andromeda. Well, that's not going to do because we don't live that long. However, with this thing, you would focus on to Andromeda Galaxy where you want to go, and then it will fold space around itself like a burrito, and then squash it flat. And on a linear plane, you only go through the thickness of the walls of those dimensions. At sublight speed, you would get there in about 2 minutes our time, real time. Answering Einstein's riddle. How can you go millions of times faster than the speed of light without breaking the speed of light? I just explained it to you.
Right.
It's called transdimensional warp drive, and that's my own term. And that's how your little friends are getting around. That's how come they don't have a time and barrier problem. I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but there's 2 things I can't answer. How do you navigate and how do you communicate? Because you're going to outrun your own headlights. I haven't a clue. I ain't got enough brain power for that. I'm just giving you a propulsion system. But navigation and communication, somebody else is going to have to work that out.
Now,
anyway.
Well, we got to take a break here, so we'll pick up okay, so this is where we've left off, okay? We're doing the Pulp Fiction storytelling style here. So we're going to, when we come back after the break, David and the rest of the guys, they get on the black DC-9, and they head to Area 51. Well, at that time, it was Groom Lake.
Yeah.
So we'll
Groom Lake for me.
Yep, Groom Lake for everybody back then. And we'll do all of that when we come back. Our guest tonight, the one and only David Adair. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church.
Killer job.
Oh, no, you are the killer job. Thank you so much, David. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by New Manna. Emergency food storage for you and your family. 25-year shelf life, MSG and GMO-free, and made in America. Promo code is Jimmy. Just click on the New Manna banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. Our guest tonight, David Adair. And now, David, let's do this in the interest of running out of time, and we've got an hour left. I knew this was going to happen. I told you this earlier today, so it is what it is.
Yes,
but
you did.
let's jump forward. You're on the Black DC-9 with the guys. You land at Groom Lake. Let's pick it up from there.
Okay. Yeah, when we flew in, we landed on something that looks like or was a taxiway, but you can see by the chalk markers and strings and flags and stuff that was everywhere. They were planning to build a couple big runways and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that place was getting ready to do some serious construction. And remember, this is June 1971. But we get on the taxiway and we land, and we pull up to the center hangar. And as soon as you get out of this place, things just are strange at this place. I don't know how else to say it. You get out and you look at the hangar, and it is a brand new hangar, shiny inside. On the outside, it looked like it had been painted to look old. And I don't know if that was for satellites or what they were doing. But you could tell this was another odd thing. The lights on the roof, they had louvers where the lights would shine straight down, but not straight out. So from a distance, you wouldn't even see the thing at night. Just stuff like that. That's not normal for airports and hangars. So we go inside, and that's the next strange thing. They put us on these things that look like golf carts, but I have no idea what powered these things, because it wasn't propane or electric or internal combustion. They'd hum a really strange sound. And a light down in it had an opening like an intake, and it would change colors, resonated up and down with its power flow. And I just today don't even know what that was. So we got on these go-karts, and we went in, to the center hangar, and we just sat there. And I thought, wonder what this is. It's big. Holy smokes. This floor has got to be about the size of a football field. It's strange because on the outside, the hangars did not really show how big the floor area was inside. It extended underneath it. But the center section we were sitting in, was a pretty good size. And sure enough, here come all these little chains out of the floor and over doorways and stuff. And it was a pedestrian barrier guard. So I'm sitting there thinking, I think this floor is sure enough, the floor drops out from under us and it's an elevator. Now, this is a concrete floor, and at the size of it, I can't imagine how much hundreds of tons of concrete this elevator is moving. So we're going down, and I thought, it can't be cable and chains because then you got weight, whatever you're bringing in to go up and down with. So it's got to be something really impressive. So we went down. Sure enough, you could see them. I think there were 12 or 14. They were halfway embedded in the walls, and they're giant worm screws the size of sequoia trees. Now, a worm screw, if you ever watch a garage door opener,
right,
and seeing that thing turn and spin, that's what brings the door up, and that's what is moving this elevator, worm screw. It's the heaviest load-bearing elevator device known to man. But imagine worm screws the size of sequoia trees.
Wow.
And so we're going down, and I thought, man, whatever they're moving, it must be god-awful heavy. So the floor flattens out, and I'm counting feet, and I think we're about 200 feet down. And when it flattens out and stops, 3/4 of the elevator shaft is solid walls, but the opening is straight out. And, man, you have got to see that. It is a giant causeway, and it goes out so far, it's bending with the curvature of the earth, and it goes out of human sight, straight ahead, but out of sight. It's got to be over 20 miles out that way. And so the first question I asked everybody was, wow, what did you guys do with all the dirt? And they got so mad over that question, I couldn't believe it. And I thought, I'm going to hit a nerve. And even today, what happened to all the dirt? I even made a joke because Star Trek just been on for a couple of years. I said, you guys phaser all the dirt? And then it got even madder about it. So I left it alone. But we took off riding, and we're going past the walls now. When they get down toward the sides, they canter into a perpendicular facing. So you had hangar bays, and you had offices and workshops and labs, and you can look through the windows and see all the stuff people are doing. And that brings me to my next puzzle, is that I notice we're riding along, and the lighting is perfect. And that's where it gets me, because I'm looking around, and I stick out my arm, and there's no shadows. But here's the next mystery. There's no lights. There are no light fixtures anywhere. No indirect lighting, no direct light, no light fixtures, and it is perfectly illuminated down there.
Wait a minute. So you're saying light is coming in from all directions at the same time?
The best way to describe it, the atmosphere itself was illuminated.
Wow.
If you can imagine that. You know what it's like? It's like a paint booth. You can't have shadows in a paint booth because you'll get a run your paint and not see it. So it's perfectly lit, but you can't find any light fixtures. And I'm going, man, what is that about? So even today, I don't know how they did that. It was very cool. But and then there was another strange thing. Some of the labs and some of the hangars would have double airlocks. And you see inside, past the first lock, that it's like a cloud or fog they're walking in. And people got some kind of weird-looking glasses that they drop down off of their eyes when they come out of the fog. I have no idea what that was about. So anyway, we went on down probably about a quarter of a mile, and we stopped, and let's see, left-hand side. And all the hangar doors, I saw some stuff down there. Some of the hangar doors were pulled back a little bit, and you can see stuff sitting in there. And I swear to gosh, I saw an F-117 sitting there. Now, this is 1971. And then I saw an XB-70, a Valkyrie. You guys ever heard of that thing?
Oh, I've been on the one at Wright Pat at the museum.
There you go. That's something, isn't it? That's impressive.
Yep.
By the way, you know who designed that?
Who?
General, God, my brain's going here. Anyway, oh my God, my project manager.
It doesn't matter.
LeMay.
Oh, LeMay designed the Valkyrie.
General LeMay, yeah, it does matter because the Valkyrie, that was part of this whole thing, why I'm involved. General LeMay wanted Robert McNamara to build 40 of number of Valkyries, the XB-70. And he was going to replace the B-52 fleet with these things. And this thing was originally designed in 1958, and it cruises at 85,000 feet at 2,000 miles an hour. And you saw how big it is. It's just unimaginable. And he came up with that idea, and they had two built, and one of them crashed, and you saw the other one. But that was his game plan, to put them in the fail-safe continuous flying routes that he had the B-52s in. And then what he wanted to do, I'm getting ahead of myself. Just remember that. He designed the Valkyrie.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Okay, so you're looking through the hangar doors.
So we're looking at the door we're going into. All the others were hangar doors. This door is about a 35, 40-foot diameter iris, like a camera iris. And it's open, and I thought, wow, what a door. So the guy jumps off the little golf cart, and he goes over to the wall, puts both hands on this panel, looks into this cone-shaped thing. There's a flash, and then the iris opens. And I'm watching him get back in. I'm going, man, what was that? Did we just see a palm scanner and a retina scanner? This is 1971. We don't even have a handheld calculator yet.
Right.
That comes later with Texas Instruments. And here are these people packing this kind of technology, and you got the weird lighting, and you got all the tunnel bit, where are these people getting? They ain't ordering this from Amazon. That didn't even exist yet. So they're really packing some strange technologies in this area. And when the iris opens, then the lights come up in this big room that's about the size of the gymnasium. And I thought, okay, we'll find some light fixtures. So I'm looking real close, seeing the lights come, and it's just lighting up, and now it's up to, full luminosity. And we pull in, I stick out my arms, no shadows, but perfect lighting. God, how they do that. So we go to the end of the room, and there's a big stage there, and built out of I-beams. And there's something sitting on the stage. It's covered by these curtains, and I ain't talking like a bathroom shower curtain. You've seen the curtains on a 18-wheel semi. You ever try picking up one of those rubber mats?
Right.
They're extremely heavy. These curtains are so big. They're at least 40 feet, probably 30 feet tall by 60 feet, 75, nearly 100 feet in length. There's no way you could run up and lift up this curtain and look under it. It's impossible. So it had chains hooked to it, went to the ceiling, and the chains started pulling up. So the curtain's being raised, and I thought, wow, what's on this stage? And then all of a sudden I see it, and I go, holy smokes, I'm disappointed. I thought I was ahead of everybody. And because I have an electromagnetic fusion containment engine. Guess what's sitting there? An electromagnetic fusion containment engine. You can tell by the way it's shaped. However, it's the size of an 18-wheel semi. Next time you're up at a semi, walk around it and take a look. That's about 75 feet by 15 feet tall by 22 feet wide. And this they've got, and it's not a ship, it's just a power plant. An electromagnetic fusion containment power plant the size of an 18-wheel semi.
Well, let me jump in. So the way that that you designed yours, which was the two balls on each end, as you described, two octopuses doing their thing, is that what you are seeing here, but just bigger?
Gigantic, and there's a lot of other things there I can't explain. There's some areas of it that it looks got these slots, and I could tell by their location they're probably venting plasma, but they look like shark gills. It has an ectoskeleton body, It's skeletons on the outside. I mean, this thing is, you're looking at it and go, it's a machine, right? Is it organic? Is it inorganic? You know, you can't tell. It looks like a blend of both. And so I'm standing there somewhat dumbfounded, and one thing I noticed immediately, it had a huge hole in its side, right where, think of a figure eight, and where it crosses at the center. That's where the hole was. So if somebody wanted to shut this engine down, that's the most perfect place in the world to hit it. So I'm looking at it, and I turned to Arthur Rudolph, and I went, oh, man, can I get a closer look? And all the base personnel said no, and Arthur says, yeah, go ahead. So clearly Arthur's in charge. So I'll go up the stairs and up on the platform, and I walk up to this thing. And when I get close to it, right where the smooth ball sides are on the inside of the exoskeleton, I get about 2 feet, about 3 feet from it, and I can see my shadow perfectly. And I'm turning around, I'm looking up, I'm trying to find a light source, right, that I'd be blocking, and I'm not. And I turn back around and wave my arms at it, and my shadow's about 1/2 second behind me. And I'm going, man, what is it? So I thought it was heat recognition alloy, and it's picking up the thermal energy off my body, and that's why we're getting a shadow, and that's why there's a lag time. Well, I'll come to find out later, no, it's something else altogether. But it's interacting. Well, what it's doing, it's aware. It's an sentient entity that's a machine. None of this just don't make sense to you. Don't worry about it, because it don't make sense to me.
Well, but you don't know this yet. You're still trying to figure out what's going on. How many? Okay, in this big room, you're on the stage, and you came in on the carts. How many people were with you besides Rudolph?
Let's see. We had the driver of the cart. We had 2 other. I guess they were guards. There's me and Rudolph, and there were 2 other guys. So 2, 4, 6, 7, about 8 of us. And that's the maximum seating area of that go-kart, too.
Okay.
So we're all standing there. And there was nobody in the room prior. The room was empty and dark. And that's another thing. It's cool in that room. I mean cool. Well, I reached out and touched this thing, and it was warm. And I'm looking around, and there are no cables running this thing, no power of any kind. How could a material like that, or metal, or any kind of material, be so warm to the touch when it doesn't have any power source? Well, it shouldn't, unless it's already got its own internal power source. So I turn around looking at Rudolph, and I go, it's warm. He goes, yeah, isn't that interesting? I said, yeah. So I asked him, can I climb up on top? Because I want to go look at that damage area. And the Air Force people say no. Rudolph turns around and says, yeah. So I grab hold of the exoskeleton, and you just climb up it like going up a trellis. But I reached in and put my hands on the smooth surface. And the best way I can describe it is, if you ever pet a dolphin, that's what this thing felt like. It felt like a dolphin surface. Very hard and firm. If you push in, it would give just a tiny bit, and that's it. Then it's just solid. But it had the suppleness of flesh, I guess. But wherever my skin was touching it, there was these radiating waves that would run down its hull. And it was blue-white, and it had a really nice motion to it. You remember them things they make for a stress executive, the motion wave, the thing that goes back and forth on a desk?
Oh, yeah, right.
It's like an old lava lamp. But anyway, that's the way the waves would move. And I thought, that's really cool. So I went on up, climbing up on top. I get on top. I'm stepping over what looks like ribs and spinal columns and vertebrates. And actually, if you look at it on a structural level, that's the support frames. But inside, this is really cool, inside the vertebrates is a big bundle of tubes running through, like a trunk case. And you look inside the tubes, and they've got a fluid running through them. You can see it moving. and it's got the coolest color. Best way I can only describe it is methylate. Most people probably don't know what it is, but if you're an older person, you'll remember methylate, especially if you had a cut or scratch and your mom came at you with it. But it was iridescent orange-green fluid. And so work on up, get my way to the center of the thing, and then look at this blast area. And that's where it gets strange again. Things aren't strange enough. It's supposed to be metal. It's hard as metal steel. There's no give to it when you step on it. But if you look at the blast area, the radius of it, the only way I can describe it is I've seen pictures of it. When they shoot a harpoon into a whale, it has a grenade in the end of it, and it explodes. That's what kills the whale so they can capture the thing. That's what this looked like. It looks like chunks of flesh ripped apart and sticking out rather than shards of metal. And you can put your hand on it and you can't get cut by it. So I asked Rudolph if I could crawl down into the blast hole. Of course, I get the same thing, no, and then yes. So I crawled down into this blast area, and that's why I wanted to, because you got to remember something, y'all. I built my engine, and it's about 3.5, 4 feet long, about 1.5 feet diameter. Some of the parts I worked on was so small, I had to use microscopes to put everything together. We didn't have the luxury of printed circuits in 1971, not like we do today. But anyway, some of the small mechanical work I had to do by hand. But now, here is the same version of my engine, big enough for me to walk through. That does something to your head, I'm telling you.
Right.
It's just like, man, the technology. And the reason I was curious in that area, if I was going to build a diagnostic station on a device like this, I'd build one left side, right side, one for the front cyclotron, one for the rear. And that's exactly what these things were. They were diagnostic stations, which implies that what looks like a bipedal anthropoid works with this thing, because there were seats in there, but they were blown away by the blast of whatever did the initial damage to this thing. Anyway, there's a whole part of the whole story. We're going to skip about 100 pages. We're not going to get done if I don't. I come back out of that thing, and I've had some interactions, and it's kind of like give me a heads up on things. So I'm really ticked off with the guys standing on the floor. So the first I was okay until they started a series of questions. First thing that the colonel, by the way, one of the guys that was with us was a full colonel. He was the colonel of the base, and he was with Rudolph. He stood next to Rudolph through the whole thing. Anyway, the colonel asked me, said, son, would you like to help us with this engine? I said, yeah, what are you going to do to it? He goes, well, we need to repair it. Yeah, I can see you've had a pretty nasty blast there. What caused that? Well, the guys that are working on it would probably help you with it. Well, where are they at? Well, they're on vacation. You're on summer vacation, aren't you? I said, yeah. Well, they get vacation. I'm like, oh, God. Okay, so did they leave any notes, notebooks I can look at? And he goes, well, you have homework. Well, they have homework they had to take with them. And the condescending attitude was just so hard to breathe with. And but you got to remember, that's how they talked to 17-year-olds in 1971. So finally, I just told the colonel, I said, hey, let me guess. This thing's not from here. It's not from the neighborhood, and it's not ours, and it's not theirs, the Soviet Union. Where'd you get this thing? Did you shoot it down, or did you dig it up when you were digging this basement place you got? And then they got real irritated, and they didn't like that. And I told them, I said, let me guess. This thing is a power plant. It's come out of some kind of vehicle. And that vehicle, by some of the things I've seen in here, they had a crew, which was a bipedal anthropoid. So where's the crew? Where's the ship? And tell me the truth. This is not yours, and you want me to help you how to start this thing up. Well, you can't because of where the blast is. And that's when they got mad and told me to get off the device and come back to the floor. So I'm really angry with the whole situation, and I'm coming down off the thing, and now wherever I put my hands on the smooth parts on the inside, it's not the blue-white waves. They are like hot rod flames that you see on a drag racer, you know, the really violent-looking waves of red and orange colors. And I'm going, man, I take my hand off, and it stops, put my hand back on it. And as I'm trying to figure out what it's doing, as I calm down, it goes back from red, orange flames to blue and white. And I suddenly realized it's not heat-seeking recognition alloy. This thing is reading my mood. It's sentient. This thing is totally aware, and they haven't got a clue. So I take my hands back off of it, and I turn around and look at their faces, and their faces are blank with their mouths hanging open. They hadn't seen an interaction like that. So I turned around and said, oh, you guys can't get that reaction? Oh, that ticked them off. And they told me to get back in the cart. So I get in the cart, we're riding back up to the surface, and I'm at the back of the cart facing out. And we're driving forward, and that's a real important detail because they're whispering. What does sound do? It travels on the wind, and we're going forward, so the wind's blowing past my ears, and I can hear their whispering perfectly. And I can hear what they're saying, and they're saying, we have got to get this kid to help us with this thing. If we don't, we're not going to get the speed that we need for the rest of the program, and we're not going to achieve first strike. And I'm sitting there going, first strike? Are they playing baseball? What? Yeah, I never heard of first strike. I don't know what it is. So they keep on talking, and they talk about fail-safe. And I went, oh, God, they're talking about trying to get around MAD, M-A-D, mutual assured destruction, which is what we live under today. And whoever could win MAD would have to have first strike. Whoever could win MAD would have to have something really fast. And then I started putting it together. We saw the Valkyrie. What LeMay wanted to do was put Pislam into the belly of the Valkyries. And at 2,000 miles an hour, they would move into fail-safe, and then they would drop their bomb bay doors, launch Pislam with a nuclear warhead, and the Soviets would see a streak on their screens, and they would ask the question, what is that? And by the time they get to is, what is? Boom, they're gone at the flash. You win. You win MAD, you have the first strike. Well, I got into the argument with Rudolph about that, and I said, well, that's fine and dandy, but what about the nuclear submarines in the oceans? They said, well, we could strike some of those areas, but we'll have about a 30% loss. We find that acceptable. And I went, not if you're in the 30%, you don't. I said, this is insane. So that's when on the ride back up there, I realized why I'm there. They're wanting to win first strike, and I just delivered them the fastest moving thing there is. And I thought, God almighty, I'm going to burn up a couple billion people, Soviet Union, and you know who they'd have to strike the same day? China.
Right.
So they're not going to sit there. So you're going to burn about half the planet away.
Let's say, David.
Yeah,
David. We have to take a break right here, and we'll come right back because we got to get up to the surface. Your rocket is up there somewhere. Our guest tonight is David.
It is.
Yeah, we'll finish all of this up in just a second. Doing a little overtime with David Adair. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. David's website is americasfallfromgrace.com. The links are at jimmychurchradio.com. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of. Ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hey, can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. The holidays are coming. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by Bearing Optics, the night vision that we both use and approve right here at Fade to Black. Just give Alec Hoffman a call. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com, and those banners, just mention Jimmy Church because Alec is a fadernaut. Go and see your very own green chrome balls. Don't worry about that, David, but one day I'll take you out with night vision and I'll show you some green chrome balls. It's pretty amazing when you see it. Now let's get back to it. Okay, so you're on the cart. They do the whisper, talking about first strike and mad.
Right.
But you head up to the surface. What happens next?
Well, I was sitting there going, man, I've got to figure out. I have to take my own design out. I've got to get rid of Pithlum because these people are crazy. They're getting ready to go into World War III, and they are determined to get there. And I just handed them, they had a busted prototype downstairs, but I just delivered one up on the desert floor that's absolutely working fine, and they're going to have everything from that they are going to need to figure it out. And I got to figure out, how do you blow up a non-existent rocket on a top-secret base that doesn't exist? I mean, that's what I got to figure out, and I got to do it in just a matter of seconds. So we get up back to where we're at. We're at up on the main hangar deck, and I'm looking out in the distance, and we can see for about a couple miles out there, you can see the parachutes on my piston where it landed. And I thought, I need to go look at that thing. So I start whining and crying to Dr. Rudolph. I want to see my rocket at least before you take it and all that stuff, making a lot of noise. And while I'm doing that, I'm leaning against the hangar door, and I'm sliding down, and I'm leaning against the hub of the wheel of the door. In that hub is graphite grease, so I smear a bunch of it in my hand and close my hand. He sends me out with those two guards on that golf cart thing to go look at the rocket, and we did. And when we got out there, I told the guards, stand back, this thing might be leaking, it could detonate. So I get over to it, and I open up its side, and I just remember taking the graphite grease and putting it in the induction chamber and closing it. And I set the revolution cycles to about 5 minutes. So I told them, hey, this thing's leaking. It's going to explode. We better get back to the hangar. Well, they didn't argue with me, so we got on board, and we're moving pretty quick. And one of the guards asked a really good question. He said, what's a safe distance? And I thought, oh, God, I don't know if this thing will go nuclear or stay conventional. If it's nuclear, the entire half of Nevada is going to be. So he asked me, what's a safe distance? And I said, Chicago. And man, he floored that thing. And we made it back to the hangar. And just as soon as we got out, the guard said, he said it's leaking. And then there's an explosion that you wouldn't believe. And the biggest piece he ever found of piston was about the size of my thumb. And Rudolph's looking at the thing blowing up out there. And he's looking, to show you how smart he is, he looks at me. He's looking at my body. Then he grabs my hand and rolls it over. Then he turns around and looks at the hangar door, and he looks back at me. That's how fast he is. And he went very smart. Then he backhanded me so hard, he pushed my lower teeth through my lower lip, and that hurt. So I hit the ground, and I'm bleeding everywhere, and I'm spitting out blood, and I set up, and I hear all these guns cocking, and I thought, oh, God, now gunpoint, and I look up, and guess what? All the gun barrels are pointing at Dr. Rudolph, not me. Now, why is that? Because their fathers just got through fighting his people in World War II. It's not that long ago. It's in 1971. And I look up at Rudolph and I go, maybe you're not in charge as you think you are. And it's a real intense look. And then finally the sergeant stepped in and calmed everybody down. But Rudolph had me picked up, and they sent me to this holding room, and we went through the hangar and through these offices and down this hall, and they locked me in this room where there's no windows, just a door and a single bulb hanging off of a wire, and that was it. And they tossed me in. I was just sitting down on the floor. And Rudolph had some really cold things to say. He said, I have a 17-year-old cadaver. We're going to change the dental charts and burn it and send it back to your parents and say you were killed at a White Sands, New Mexico mishap, and you're going to stay here for the rest of your life. And that's when I started crying, because I am in serious trouble. Nobody knows where I'm at. Last place known was White Sands. But while all that's going on, Colonel Williams was a Blue Beret, and he overpowered his guards, got loose, got to a phone, and called General LeMay. General LeMay finds out where I'm at, jumps on his private plane, and he takes off from Wright-Patterson, and he flies straight into Groom Lake. Do you know how he could do that? Because since he was the acting top general of the Joint Chiefs, he appointed all the commanders of all the Air Force bases, and that included Groom Lake. So he put that colonel in that base into that position. So you think they're going to deny him flying in? I don't think so. So he gets there, and I hear this noise out in the hallway, and I see the door fly open, and this big square figure fellow, and had this stogie cigar he's moving around with his hand. I went, oh, man, that's got to be General LeMay. And he's got this other guy by his tie pushing him around everywhere, and that was the colonel of the base. So he looked at me, and I am a mess, and he really gets mad with the colonel, and he said, we didn't do it. Rudolph didn't. He goes, where is he? He left just before you got here. And LeMay said, find him. So he said, get him on my jet and get him cleaned up. So they cleaned me up, put me on a jet, and we flew back to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And he told me on the way back, he said, I'm going to burn the paper trails and everything the best I can, but they're not through with you, and you're going to see more of Rudolph and company. He said, the best thing you can do is never build another rocket ever again. You done blew the only prototype away. So I said, are you mad at me? He goes, no, not at all. And that was interesting for it. He had like a reflection about something. But so anyway.
Well, let me jump in. Let's go back to the big the alien engine. Did it malfunction and blow up internally on its own, or did we shoot it out of the sky?
Nope. What happened, this engine's designed to be lifted in and out of the spacecraft real easy. It's only got 4 big disconnects and plug-ins. And what it does, the craft that it was originally in, judging by size, proportions, power needed differentials, power displacements, I would think the spacecraft would have to be bigger than a football field. And this thing was its power unit. But this thing could land anywhere, drop its power unit, and use secondary units on board the ship to still fly and maneuver around, and you have a power plant sitting there with the power of a sun inside it. Same way we would do with nuclear aircraft carriers in Beirut. We pulled up to Beirut, sent cables to the land, and the carriers were nuclear power reactors. They were powered all of Beirut for a year before they could get their power back. So this thing had a similar design, except it do it on planet level. God, that's amazing. Also, I don't know how old this thing is. I get the feeling this thing is not million but billions of years old, and it comes from another technology that we ain't even begun to understand. It's somewhere between organic and inorganic, and the machines and the sentient beings, they're all blended into one. You can't tell one from the other. You don't know where one stops and the other one starts. So it's just really advanced, and that was the argument I skipped over. I was telling them about the crew. I said, what'd you do with the ship? You pickle the crew? And I also told them, I had to remind them, not everybody in the universe runs on a Julius Caesar calendar. What may seem like 30, 40 years to us may only be one day for them. And what if their friends come looking for their downed pilots like we always do? But they just hadn't got here yet. And when they do, I would hate to get vaporized by a hostile race because we pickled their crew members and I knew nothing about it. So that's kind of arguments that was going on with them. But when LeMay got me back home and his car took me back to Mount Vernon, a few weeks later I went back to school, and that's how I spent my summer vacation of my junior year in high school. And they literally asked me to write a thing for that. I couldn't believe. So I told them I worked at Pizza Hut.
So, do you know if they ever got the engine repaired?
No, I know they haven't, because I've been looking for certain milestones in technology to jump, and nothing's jumped. There's a real good reason why they didn't get anywhere with it. There's so much I jumped over because we just don't have the time for it. But when I left that thing, remember I said it was warm?
Mm-hmm.
When I left, it was ice cold. So what they were trying to get to and trying to figure out how to interface with, it had already figured out a way to get out of there. So no, they did. To answer the question, no, they haven't gotten anywhere with it. If they would or did, they wouldn't be struggling with fusion containment like they are, and they're in a frantic pitch with everything from CERN to the device that they have at two places. One is in England, the other one is in Princeton, New Jersey. They have a fusion containment reactor they're trying to get to come online. But it's failing every time because I know why. It's the wrong design. It's not going to support the kind of demand they're asking for because it's not designed right.
Are you saying that this engine thinks, and so it doesn't want to get repaired, or repaired by them, I should say?
Yeah, well, it didn't like them, I can tell you that much. Yeah, this thing thinks. It more than thinks, it feels, it reasons. It's just like us, and but it's got some extreme history on itself, and it came out of an armed conflict. That's what happened. Whatever I could tell by inspecting the blast area, whatever the device was, it had a measured focal length. In other words, it's something that was able to penetrate the hull of the ship, the hull of the power plant, right up through the inspection station, destroying everything on its way. And then when it hit the electromagnetic fields, it stopped. And that's perfect because that engine system, striking it right there, you can shut it down at a picosecond, a trillionth of a second. And that's real important because you wouldn't want that 100 million degrees centigrade looking at any material.
Right.
So it shuts down that fast. And that's what it did. And that's, apparently the thing, I don't know, we're on the edge of the galaxy, right? Right on the outer arm. So if you were having some kind of armed conflict out into intergalactic space between the galaxies where we said there's nothing, and now we're starting to find out there's solar systems out there. So think of this thing as a whale born in deep oceans or deep space in between the galaxies. That's where they're born, live, and die. That's where they live. Well, if they in an armed conflict come flying into a galaxy, they're going to look for the first thing they can really work with, like a Class M planet. And they may found us on the very outer arm of this galaxy, and that'd been the first thing they encounter. So, interesting thought, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know what's funny? We went through, your incredible journey tonight, the hero's journey, and we didn't get a chance to talk about your new DVD, America's Fall from Space, a story of scientific
the reason
collusion.
The people asked me the title, and I told them when I had to blow Pissolum up, at that moment I had to put the graphite grease in.
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, and I was looking at Pissolum, I wish Pissolum could just fly away because I hate for this thing to go. It came out of my head, and I created it, and now I got to destroy it. And I was looking at it, and I was going, you know what we're doing here? We're falling from space because this thing's not just a power plant. At phase 1 it is. Phase 2 and 3 and 4, it will be a power plant for a starship. We could have had starship capability. Now, today, forward to 2018, we can't even get off the planet. We can't, in America, we can't even launch a man into space anymore. We put our entire fleet in mothballs in museums. And by the way, did you know that they had 66% of their life left? The fleet did. You want to explain to me why you built a $150 billion platform floating around in space up there called the ISS, and the only way getting to it was your space fleet, and you only used it for 23%, and then you put it in mothballs for the rest of its life? Somebody explain that to me. I don't seem to have enough knowledge. I'm missing something. Why are we doing something like that? 40 years ago, we were more advanced. Oh, how's that? I could fly 450 tons of equipment and 3 men to the moon, 500,000 miles out and back, round trip. And today, I can't even get to orbit. Where are we going, forwards or backwards? We're going backwards. So that's why I came up with the title when I had to blow Pissolum away. America's fall from space. We could have had starships by now. Instead of fighting with me and tug of war between agencies, Air Force and CIA and all this stuff, all I had to put up with, and me finally giving up and I'm just going to private practice, which I did, and you guys never heard from me. Instead, if you had worked with me and we would have repaired that device down there, we would have had starship travel. Imagine all the things we could have done. So at that moment, if it wasn't America, it was the world fell from space. Our chance of having starship travel in our lifetime was gone. It went with destruction of Epsilon. So I've been studying for 42 years in this lab of mine and thinking about all the stuff that I built, and it's kind of expensive building, replicating what LeMay could do with a snap of his fingers with the iron triad right there with you. So over the course of 42 years, guess what? I rebuilt the damn thing. How about that?
Where is it?
So this in an undisclosed location, but I have done this, and it's known to the right parts of the world. Upon my demise, I have multiple open sources, and everything's going to get dumped on the internet. The material list, the parts, the machines, right down to the size screws you're going to need. Everything you need to build it. And so any decent lab would replicate it. They'll get the same results, thereby validating the technology, and then they'll put it to work. And when it goes to work, it'll change the carbon print on this planet forever. And so you know what? The bad guys don't want me to fall down in the shower, get run over by a car. They want me to live forever, because the minute I die, their worst nightmare starts.
Well, why not just broadcast it on the internet?
I don't want to do it while I'm alive.
Why not? I can do it. I'll move you to an undisclosed location.
I don't want to have to live like that. So right now I've got an insurance policy set up, and I just live my normal life. And it'll take a little bit longer for it to get out, but it will get out. And you know why? I didn't have World Wide Web in 1971.
Right.
I didn't have open source in 1971. Now I do. So guess what? When their own rush to build their own control things, they just built the same mechanism I needed to drop everything on them. Kind of an irony, isn't it?
Well, we're launching a new social media platform, and it takes off, on Stellar. Takes off for alpha testing this Wednesday, but it's a decentralized system. So there is a way, and you can go look at OnStellar, after the show tonight, OnStellar.com, and I'll get you access, David, to the website, or it's a platform, it's not a website, the platform on Wednesday. You go check it out. And that's a decentralized way to get this out there, like you're saying, and nobody can stop it. Not the NSA, not the CIA, not the FBI, not CERN, not DARPA, not RAND. Nobody.
That's exactly the way I set it up. And the WikiLeaks people also found what I was doing really interesting. There's been some help there, but
but WikiLeaks,
anyway,
WikiLeaks is antiquated technology, and the NSA has access to all of their stuff. That's not hidden away anywhere. But on Stellar, this is the future. This is Internet 3.0. So I'm just throwing it out there. There may be a path forward.
Man, I'm hearing you. I'm writing this down. That may be something I want to switch over to, but I do have a few locations across the planet set up. Some other groups in other countries that are more attuned to this stuff. It's amazing. We think we lead the world in things, and we really don't.
Yeah, I mean, and really quick before I have to say goodnight, and before I do say goodnight, thank you. Amazing conversation. I expected this, but it was all that and a whole lot more. I really enjoyed myself tonight. But if you
did an excellent job following along, because this is not an easy story to follow on the get-go and a Pulp Fiction delivery. So it's good.
It's easy when you're having fun. Trust me, and I had a great time. But I want to go. I want to go back to one thing that you had mentioned in 1970. If you're taking a peek through hangar doors and you saw a 117, and that was, let's freak ourselves out now. That's almost 50 years ago.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
Right. What on God's green earth is there now? I mean, how far ahead are they?
You and I think alike, bud. I just wonder because. Look at the Valkyrie, the XB-70 in 1958, 85,000 feet, 2,000 miles an hour. There's nothing today that could touch that altitude or speed. And that thing was about the size of a football field. I don't know. But then again, the flip side is, I think if it's a math test, somebody's cheating. I think there's a third party involved. And that's an excellent question. I ask myself that all the time. What's in those hangars bays now? If they were that far in 1971, God knows what they have now. And that's why a lot of stuff flying around, it's probably ours, which is why we haven't seen any aliens doing international greetings,
right,
or interplanetary greetings, is because it's our own people. And we would ask the questions, where'd you get that? Then, cat's out of the bag then, buddy, because we're going to find out they've lied and cut deals and not invited us in. And I still have, I don't know what to say about the alternative space program. I don't know if it's real or not because I haven't been there. I hadn't seen this hardware. But I have to tell you, by the way things are behaving in the real reality world, there's an awful lot of smoke. There's got to be a fire somewhere. Because why would you retire? Would you buy a brand new car and only drive it for about 32% and then put it in a museum forever?
Yeah, I know.
No. Why did you do that to the shuttle fleet? Yeah, there was 66% of its life left. And me and you as taxpayers, we got a damn right to ask that, and not getting our money's worth, are we? They just shut everything down. Just like, well, that's it. And by the way, you think if I gave you a space shuttle out of the museum today, could you launch it? No. You know what happened to the launch pads? They're cut up. They're gone. There's nothing but a slab of concrete there. It's all sold for scrap iron. If you don't think that's real, go look it up. The launch pads at 36A and B are gone. So clearly, they burnt the ships after we came back from North America.
David, thank you so much. And again, I want to remind everybody, you can get the DVD, America's Fall from Space.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. David, I can't wait to get you back on the show again. There's so much more to talk about with you, but I really, really enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And for next subject area, Congress just made me the national spokesperson for the SHIELD Act of your electric grid to protect us from CMEs and EMPs. Let's talk about that next time.
You got it, David. All the best, my friend. Be safe out there.
Hey, appreciate it, Jimmy.
Thank you, David. David Adair, everybody. And again, America's Fall from Space.com. The conversation was all that and much more. Thank you so much, David. And you got to wonder, with the X-15, the SR-71, the YF-12A, and some of the other technology that was going back to the late 50s through the mid-60s. That was some of the most amazing technology, right? But where are we today? Think about that. We've got to be 50 to 100 years in the future, I would think. Faded Black's executive producers, Rita Camarion. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster, Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA the planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2018 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Tomorrow night, Corey Good and Gerald O'Donnell. We're going to talk remote viewing. This is Fade to Black. Until tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.